Can you tell my little boy's gone? His mom came and picked him up. Um, you know, uh, One of the things, like one of the all-time goals for composers and musicians, is to to realize the point where you can externalize your internal thoughts, because they're often when you don't really have to think, when you can just express what's going on inside. It's a way. It's almost therapy. It's like getting it out. People like to talk to people when they're therapists like to go and talk things out. Well, there are some things that can't be expressed in words. That's what we have music for. And when you can speak the language of music fluently and extemporaneously, then you can actually talk out what's going on inside. And it's great for you. There's lots of times that, even for myself, if I tend to do a lot of introspection and self-examination, but there's just times I'm not clear what it is I'm feeling or why I'm upset or I seem short. And if I sit down at the piano and I take my mind out of it, usually what comes out makes it very, very clear what's going on inside. And I did not know that was a thing. That's not why I got into music. I got into music to give other people something. And but it turns out, that if you can attain that level of fluency, that you actually gain a lot from it too. Certainly people in my life can tell what's going on with me just by what I'm playing. But I can too. And so, a piece like this, my little boy's he's like my world, right? He's my life. And my girl is 2,000 miles away in Florida. And so the very first thing that hit me was the stillness and the solitude of the house. And so I just said, okay, well, that'll be the piece. Structurally, even even when it's something that's essentially an improvisation or very close to an improvisation, I make it easier on myself by planting some sort of anchors and making some sort of patterns. That's for me as much as for any listener. And so really the essence of the piece is that's the whole thing. And it and when I first started playing with it, actually I went, and I was like, okay. And of course what else can you do that? And that was where I first started, and it went from there. But as a great exercise to developing that kind of fluency, having a pattern that you say, well, you know what, we're just going to keep restating this pattern and reharmonizing it. That's like the most effective thing you can do, and then this way you have a story and you can hear a story unfolding, and yet it's really just that. It's just redressed, and at some point if it becomes, it's that's still based on it. It's 1, 2, 3. It's up, contrary motion. It's really all the same thing. It's the same idea over and over and over again. And then on a bigger structure, it really is kind of ABA, right? Because I return to, but just with a little more majestic stuff. So it's got a little more optimism, something in the end. But it's bittersweet. The whole thing is kind of bittersweet because that's exactly what I'm experiencing. And, it's a good skill to be able to decide, I'm going to write this kind of piece, X kind of piece, Y kind of piece, and people are going to have a reaction to it. But it's as good a skill and important a skill to write what you really mean to write some truth, and so so that piece for number two was hot off the presses. That's in an hour I won't feel like that again probably. Um, so I'm glad that it's been captured. I don't think the performance was all that fantastic, but it doesn't matter because that's not the point. The point isn't I'm not making an album. I'm expressing a thought. And just like here, when I'm speaking extemporaneously, I'll stammer and I'll hum and trip over my words a little bit. But if I'm clear about what I'm talking about, the message will be clear. It's exactly the same when it comes to performing music, which is part of why I don't obsess about the programming stuff. Programming because you just can't get it to sound real, is a nightmare in itself. But so many of the greatest recordings that have ever been done are just full of clams. People are making all kinds of mistakes on them. It turns out perfection is not one of the prerequisites for a really great and moving piece of music or recording of music. So, I know as I was playing that down, there was a bunch of times like, shit, and there was even some little internal voice things I didn't quite hit hard enough, so they didn't ring out. And I thought, but people should hear that because that's the point. Fuck it. That's not the point. So, anyway, that's today's piece, piece number 2, day number way too many already. And that's a good piece. I mean, these are short pieces. I don't even know how long that was. It might have been a minute, something like that, maybe a little over a minute. And believe me, if you write a minute of music a day that you don't fucking hate, that's great. That's a lot. So, and that piece could have gone on. I could have done other things, but that's all I wanted to say. That's how it was done. And actually, the very first time I was working on it, when I got to this little, I was just going to finish it like that. But I just wanted to. It felt like it needed a restatement. So you just go with it, But it's a good, but if you're not writing today, then go transcribe that piece. Just go transcribe it best as you can. And if all you get is the top notes of the melody, that's great. And if you get more than that, if you get any of the chords or devices, then those are things which you may steal. And you can steal them for your pieces. And people go, that was really cool. And you just go, yeah, thanks. Just like John Williams did. Or Alan Silvestri or James Horner or anybody else. They just steal it. And then if you really know the repertoire, you'll be like, hey, wait a minute. But most people won't know. That's really great. Yeah, uh-huh. It was great when Respighi said it. Why wouldn't it be great when Williams said it? So, anyway. Hello from Argentina, London, Florida, Prague, Scotland, Germany, Austria. Look at this. Who says music doesn't unite? It brings us all together. Even here in the virtual domain on the glowing rectangle to which we are all presently confined. I said it yesterday, but what about a live stream while you watch The Rise of Skywalker and critique it? We all have a drink, right? Like a drinking game. Every time I go, what? Think of all the claims of all the clams Miles Davis recorded. Yeah, all of them. I think that's all he recorded. New York City, check it in. Yeah, I mean, this is, like I said, I guess what am I looking for the silver lining here? But I think if you're home here and you're not, like if you've burned out already, like I assume most people have, of just like how long can you watch television or something? Whatever compels you to do that P90X or whatever, yoga or write music, that's great. But you will not learn to speak a language fluently if you don't immerse yourself in it. That's the fastest way to learn a language, is drop yourself in the country and just have to fucking work it out. You will work it out quick. You will. That's how people learn. There's like, they got to, are hungry, and they have to figure out where the bathroom is quick. And it's exactly the same as writing music. If you write every day, it's just the act of it. That's how you gain that fluidity. I thumbs down this video because I don't like Mike's face. That's fair. That's fair. I would too, probably. Hello from Virginia. Yes. Sometimes Miles would play a whole solo like a quarter tone flat. Sure, why not? Fucking Miles Davis. Remember, if it's a mistake in jazz, you do it twice. Oh, the deep fake Lucas trailer I did see. Those really are fantastic. That's really a creepy, fantastic, creepy, disturbing, fantastic thing we can do now. I mean, I don't want to get off on a tangent, but I just don't understand if you can look at fucking deep fakes, how can you still then trust the news? Anyway, but what is the easiest way to get from C harmonic minor to F sharp major? You tell me. Do it. Do it. Come up with it. It is. This is a thing. I just don't know why people aren't. So, it was locked in by the time that you were 5 years old. Your brain's favorite and flavor of learning, however it was going to learn, was locked in early, and it's like a multi-tool. It has and it's going to attack every problem, every piece of information, every data with that tool. It's probably not going to get any new tools. And so this is part of why it's really important to get to kids' brains young. But what it means is that from now on, every piece of information, your brain is going to attack it using its particular multi-tool. And the efficiency of your learning depends on how quickly it grabs the right tool. It's essentially the shortest way of saying it. So what it means is, if you come across a problem, I want to solve this thing, I don't know how to go from point A to point B in music. If I tell you, your tool never even gets taken out of the bag. It's not actually, that doesn't constitute understanding. You haven't learned anything. If you try in any way, no matter how desperately you fail, if you've already pulled the tool out and have tried the screwdriver, because that's how you figured it, and it's not working, it is a very different thing at that moment for somebody to say, all right, see how you're trying the screwdriver? Try the vice grip instead. At that moment, you're holding your tool. Your brain, your learning mechanism is engaged. And now the connection and understanding will happen because your learning, your unique learning mechanism is engaged. So in two scenarios, one where somebody gives you the information versus one where you at least attempt and then are corrected, it's night and day in terms of the concept of understanding. One actually has your brain, your learning mechanism engaged, and the other does not. The other, you may retroactively gain an understanding of, but not until you've put your process on it, which is why you can tell somebody right down to the tiniest detail how to do brain surgery, and they can memorize everything that you said, but are in no way qualified to do brain surgery. It's because that does not constitute learning and understanding. That's all like, okay, I'm hearing you. Now, once I'm actually, my hands, my eyes, my feedback, once the experiential thing is real, now I'll correlate that with maybe the stuff you said and maybe it'll make sense, but not before then. So this is the truth with anything. And this is like half the reason I started my Red Band forum, is because that's a place where other musicians are all trying. They're trying things and trying to learn, and you can get feedback and you can, but wherever possible, we try to not just go, oh, just do this. But instead, let's see your attempt. Okay, now that you're engaged, let's try this. Mike, have you ever tried to rebuild an original Ghostbuster ghost trap? No. Draco went through a pretty heavy Ghostbuster period, if you've ever seen like a major one. And I took this, I painted up a proton pack for him. There was this Spirit Halloween, had like a 75%, like a 3/4 scale. There's pictures of it on Red Band, I'm sure. Probably on my Instagram too, where I just painted it all to look legit. I replaced a bunch of cables and stuff and weathered it all and just like, just did it up. But the ghost trap, we didn't do that for. I think because we got it late. We got like the Mattel one, I think. It's a pretty good one. Like it's like pretty good. It's got sounds on it or stuff. If he'd stuck with it, we'd have done like a totally legit one. Probably we would have made the whole thing out of metal or whatever. But but his phases tend to be very, very intense and not super long. I love that somebody just gave him the answer. There you go. How about that? Let's just do that. Would you F sharp major? How about this? This is really nice. Go from C minor. Just go. Just that'd be mine. Just fuck it. Go. Do I like Bernard Herrmann's compositions? No, not really. Sort of. Kinda. They're really vibe heavy, but I don't listen to them. I'm not they're fine. Like to me. Like, oh yeah, there's chops in there, but I don't like them. No, I don't like them. I appreciate them. I respect them. Don't like them. Hi, Mike. I've been really enjoying listening to your Silent Night arrangement. Beautiful writing and playing. Oh, thank you. Yes, that was fun, I think. I don't remember it, but yeah. Mike, how about in addition to one composition a day, we add a piece you've never heard that you should listen to? We add a piece? Like you add a piece that I've never heard that I should listen to? You can certainly make recommendations, yeah, I don't think I could work that out on the fly unless I had some sort of other system here, like I'd have to work that out, but should listen to? Sure. Well, like, what, because you like it and you just want me to know? Or because you think, always liking new music, always like hearing new stuff. It's not actually really true, but no. Oh, like a recommendation to you. Oh, like a recommendation that you've never heard. Oh, yeah. Man. So here's the thing. See, I know that very few film composers, even the ones who like Williams and Goldsmith and all like the great 80s composers, I know that when I say, and when we go in the composers classes and we listen to some of the repertoire pieces, the symphonic repertoire pieces that all those guys stole from, and I go listen to those pieces because you can get the scores right now. They're most Boozy and Hawks mostly. You can get them on Sheet Music Plus. The tiniest percentage of people actually do that. So you can just go down the repertoire and just look at the the guaranteed seat filling programs from any major symphony, and you'll get Appalachian Spring and Overture for the School of Scandal, and you'll get tons of them. Just even Planets or Respighi's Pines of Rome or the Manuel de Falla pieces I mentioned yesterday, or God, there's so many. There's so many Shostakovich pieces, and you can get all the scores for them, and if you listen to them, you'll train a different muscle for being able to stay with an idea and hear developmental stuff, and you can look right there and see what the orchestrations are like. Yeah. How would I tackle the need to move a piece horizontally via modulation when composing more education-driven pieces? Boy, does that sound like why does that sound like that need to keep key centers ideal for younger players? Okay, so, well, I see, I would disagree with the concept that a younger player, that somehow modulation into different key centers represents a different level. I'm a deep end. I'm a chuck 'em in the deep end kind of guy, because again, when it comes to learning, if your brain knows what the entire bounding volume is, it approaches a problem different than if it thinks this is as big as the problem is. It just the exact same micro problem will get solved differently in a macro context. Because I've written for younger ensembles, I've played in younger ensembles, and the biggest detriment to young players, at least that I found, is that there tends to be an academic pushback against marking all accidentals and writing pieces without a key center, which is what we do in the studio generally. Because in the studio, there's just no reason to take the chance that somebody forgets it's an F sharp. Mark it F sharp because time is money. And that's why it actually teaches you a lot about how to write for the instruments when doing score prep, when all accidentals need to be marked, because you start to learn the subtle language of which players like to think sharps and which ones like to think flats, even if they're not technically correct, based on what the actual tonal center is. So for young players, I don't think they have an inherent bias for moving from C to E major. I don't think that the G sharp, or anything or the C sharp is gonna scare them. D sharp is gonna scare them. I think they'll play what's on the page. But I think the easiest way to do that would be to not let them know any modulation has happened. Just, here's an interesting part of it, and suddenly the C's, I'm playing C sharps. That would be so, because you've sort of answered your own question. If you can't modulate, how do you modulate? Well, you don't. At least not in the really most compelling ways. That being said, I suppose that would be an exercise on itself. Like, never leave the key of C and keep it interesting. Well, of course you can. But it's just it seems like an arbitrary limitation to put on it, when I don't think that the youth of a player is necessarily be that limiting a factor. Just get them used to, you're playing music? Well, sometimes there's sharps, and sometimes one bar is a natural and the next bar it's a sharp. That's just part of it. There's only 12 fucking L's anyway, you know what I mean? Like, maybe, it's more of an issue created by publishers that require pieces to be in certain keys to get published. Again, so like there's just two ways to approach that, and well, I'm not going to get published unless somebody tells me. So I left my record label because Broadcast Architecture, I think it was Broadcast Architecture, the conglomerate that owned the top 5 jazz stations in the country at the time, probably somebody else now, but at the time, my first record, nobody knew who I was. It went up the chart. It had a number 1 thing on it. It was a number 1 tune on it, and the album was in top 10 for a long time. And I did that without any help. Nobody knew anything. I didn't. And then as soon as that album came out, on the second album, my label was getting all these notes from Broadcast Architecture about how things were going to be mixed and things about how I was going to write my tune. I was like, who the fuck? So I walked from the whole thing. I had a 6-album deal. I walked after 2 because I'm not going to have a committee of fucking people telling me how to write. They don't know. What? Fuck them. I didn't need them the first time. That's me. When they pulled that shit on George Lucas, he left all the fucking unions. So some people just have and I'm one of them, nobody's going to tell me how to do that. They don't know. So my move would be, well, I'm not getting published anymore. I'll make my own fucking publishing. Fuck them. The other thought is, I'm hungry and I need to have this job, so I guess I'm going to learn to write in C. But at that point, you kind of got to give yourself a break because you've already signed up for a rat bastard situation where somebody publisher's going to tell you how to write your music, for stupid, arbitrary reasons. So then don't beat yourself up if your tune isn't that interesting. Rather than try to figure out how am I going to polish this turd, I don't know, with a cloth you don't care about very much. We'll move on. You know what I'm saying? Do you agree with the statement that the melody is dead in movie scores? Oh, I see you. Yes, the melody is dead in movie scores. The reasons are because I do not want what I have not got. Really writing really compelling motifs and themes and being able to develop them is literally not a skill anybody is studying or cares that it's missing. The films themselves are not structured to take advantage of music in the way that they used to. So thematically, directors they're not as educated musically. They don't really know what they're missing. They don't know about the power of the theme and the motif to develop without being distracting and to bind an audience to a character arc or an emotional dramatic moment. So it's a confluence of events. It's the directors don't know about it, don't ask for it. Nobody's missing it because they don't know what they're missing. The films aren't structured like that, and generally speaking, films aren't particularly fantastic anyway. They're not particular. It's a lot of shit happening without a whole lot of drama, and all of that works against it. So yeah, it's dead, but it's not dead for any good reason at all. In fact, none of the things that have happened in film are defensible. It's just when ability and competence goes down, everybody's expectations scales with it. If you give people a chance between eating a bowl full of shit and a bowl full of wood chippings, most of them will work their way through the wood chippings. It doesn't mean wood chippings are good. It's just that human beings learn to hang by their thumbs. We all do that. That's what happens. We scale our expectations. So nobody is complaining about, except for composers maybe, is complaining about the fact that most film scores are completely forgettable, totally just forgettable shit. Like you could never hum them, you can't sing them, they're gone as soon as you've heard them. Most people, they don't care about it. Who cares? Okay, all right, well, I do not want what I have not got. If you wanted them, it's not easy to do that shit. Because even if you come up with a great theme, can you develop that theme uniquely for 90 minutes? They don't even teach that anymore. I teach that because the people who take my classes want to learn how to do that, because that's what Williams and Goldsmith and Horner and Stravinsky and everybody could do that. They don't do it anymore. So, but you just have to be, that's when people say, well, is something coming back? I'm like, who's asking for anything to come back? Nobody's like, bring back woodwinds. Nobody cares. So yeah, are they missing out on huge, amazing colors? Is it 10 times easier to write if you have more instruments? Yeah, but nobody cares. Like I said, you're not going to see something change if nobody cares. The studios aren't making movies. They're not like making movies because they have things to say. That's gone. They're not even movies. They're just toy commercials and other things. So they're not made the same way technically, dramatically, artistically, creatively. They're structured different. I mean, I don't think you could graft that kind of musical structure onto your average just CG laden shitfest. I don't think you could do it. It just wouldn't. They don't even breathe. The scenes don't even breathe enough to let music go. When's the last time you saw a film that just shut the fuck up and let music just take the whole, no dialogue, just minutes of music? Because that was a real and common thing back when directors had the expectation that music could do that and the composers had the skill to do it. They would just go, you know what, fuck it. Indians are going to come. Here, there's a sunset. It's cactuses, Indians. I don't need to see. Here, just, we filmed a bunch of shit out in Utah. Here, just... here, go. Steiner, go. That doesn't happen anymore. You mentioned Adventure Brass yesterday. Is it your main brass library now, and what do you like about it? I use Adventure Brass because it's fast, and it seems very flexible. Like, it seems to be able to get away with a good, I can make it swell, and I can staccato it, and it just seems fast. And really, that's my goal when I do mock-up stuff, which I haven't done in more than a year now. I have not pulled up a virtual orchestra in at least a year. Is just fast, just hurry fast, because this sucks anyway. So it's fast and really flexible, and it's usually layered with like first chairs, or it's usually layered with sample modeling, just because the transition stuff in sample modeling is just like phenomenal. So that's usually between the two. Cinebrass. I think Cinebrass is the one that's just like totally unplayable. But again, a lot of it depends. We talked about this in the live woodwinds class. A lot of people write down to these. See, the sample libraries almost always have a handful of articulations, except that has nothing to do with the real world. So the articulations, you'll have legato and marcato and staccato, and it's like, yeah, but players don't play a staccato note and then a marcato note and then they play a million subtle micro articulations over the course of a line. It's not like that at all. It's totally unmusical. But then your composers who might not know that, they don't really know how to write for the instrument, they don't really write lyrically expressive stuff, they'll write stuff that sounds good for the sample. And so now it's just like 5 marcato notes. Like there's tons of those horn, like giant horn, and it's just marcato notes. They're just writing down to the sample. And that's fine. Like it's if all you're writing is staccato notes and then you just have a staccato sample with a few round robins on it, I guess, well, what's the difference? That's fine. The issue is that, like all the most lyrical and expressive music, it doesn't fit into one of these four articulations. So the playing libraries, like the sample modeling and what I've been able to get out of Adventure Brass, are always the ones I'll go to because they're way more musical, infinitely. And even then, it's not even close. But I can't. So as I recall, it's the Cinebrass is one of those libraries. It's just like, okay, well, if I hit just this, it's fine. But I can't play any lines. You can't play like Raiders or anything like with real legit. It doesn't work. You can't do it. So, yeah. Can you name some pieces out of the classical repertoire that are related to Alan Silvestri's way of writing? Oh. No. Maybe some Shostakovich pieces with some of this, all this stuff. That's all you need for Silvestri. Or you could do it in minor. But it's just that's Predator's minor. Back to the Future's major. That's all you need. Other than that, when you listen to Alan Silvestri's work, and I have a whole class on this, what you can really hear is a simpler pop accessibility. It's no surprise if you go back, and I think we listened to like Summer Rental or a few of his other like scores, Chips, like his arrangement that it's like orchestra serving that rather than distillations of symphonic repertoire pieces. I can't immediately think of, in contrast to Howard Hanson's Romantic, which is E.T. You know what I mean? Like, you can't miss it. You cannot miss Mars from the planets in the opening cue of Star Wars, where the fucking Star Destroyers come. You can't miss it. It's like, that's close. And that's true for Horner and Goldsmith. Those you can, because they lift. I can't immediately think. Did we bust Alan Silvestri on any lifts? I don't know. Do I have any daily practice routines? No, no, not anymore. When I was younger, and I was just like, I used to play just all day and do all these things. I was fucking crazy. I don't know that was all better, which is why I don't really recommend that. I write all the time. Anytime I hear something, I sit down and write. If I hear a ringtone, if I'm near a piano at all, I'll just work out the ringtone. I just do that. I transcribe a lot. Mostly, so not daily. My daily thing for writing music is to try to live fully, because that's the stuff that actually informs the music. I try to, that's why I don't watch TV. That's why I haven't watched TV in like almost 30 years, because I just can't sit there. I can't do it. What am I doing right now? I'm just looking at this rectangle. I have to like, let's do fucking something. I have to do stuff, because that becomes ultimately, that's where all the art comes from. So my daily thing is to live like carpe diem every day, So every day try to something that's right at the end of where my brain can handle it. I always try to do that. That's literally something that I consider part of music, because we are our music. So, but like if scales or whatever, no, I don't do anything like that. Not anymore. When I was younger, I did, But like this exercise, today or yesterday, or this writing one thing a day, that would not be in any way possible if I hadn't done that for years, decades of doing that every day, just writing all the time, just writing and writing and writing and writing and writing and writing and listening and transcribing and listening and transcribing and writing and writing and transcribing and listening and transcribing and writing. I did do that for decades every day. So maybe you should do that, but I don't do it anymore. How do you read a score that you don't know? Which element need come first in the analysis? Well, So I would not. I don't read a score that I'm not that I haven't transcribed because that's a fucking giant wasted opportunity. Like, like I would never do that unless somebody was just asking me, "Here, look at this." But if I actually had interest enough to look at the score for a piece, I would first, okay, well, what am I interested in? Well, I'm interested in this first movement. All right, well, let's transcribe it, see what we think it is, because that would be, I'll learn more in that than no matter what's actually on the page. But in a couple of my classes, I know I talk about, the fundamental elements. What are the fundamental things to lay down, fundamental voices? I talk about this in some of the orchestration classes, I'm sure. Again, guys, I don't remember what's in the classes, but you do, so help them out if there's one in particular. But if I was going to do an analysis on somebody's behalf, then it's all going to be something in the realm of a piano reduction, except it's going to go the other way. Because a piano reduction seeks to get as many of the pieces that ended up in the score back onto the piano. My piano reductions are, what did the guy really play that he exploded into the score? It's not the other way. Because, when John Williams was writing Star Wars, I guarantee you, he can't play most of the parts. There's not enough hands. I can guarantee you whole parts of it he never played on the piano because you don't need to. If you know what it's going to be, you don't actually ever have to play it, but you know which parts he did have to play. And so for me, when I do a thing, it's like, all right, let's get back to where was the real germ of the idea, because it makes it easier to analyze, But also, it's also after enough time, you start to look for how much of it is like what you'd anticipate. And that comes from a lot of transcribing. Because in a lot of orchestral stuff, you can't hear all the stuff. So, but you're like, I can't really hear it, but I know what it's going to be. Because 9 times out of 10, when a composer's in this situation, he's going to do this. And then you look at the score. Yeah, see, of course, because yes, it's like if an architect looks at a house, it's just a regular house. Okay, he doesn't have X-ray vision. He can't see he can't see through the walls, but he could go, well, there's going to be a stud like every 16 inches. There's probably studs on the 16 centers. That's probably 8 feet, 8 feet. That's because that's an 8-foot 4 by 8 foot sheet of OSB, and he knows what's behind there probably. Oh, okay, well, it's 24-inch centers. That's weird. Okay, but you know what I mean, or whatever. He's going to be able to know the door. Well, the door is framed out, so because it's always like that. So he can't really see it, but he knows what's there. It's exactly the same. After you've done a ton of transcriptions and seen a ton of scores, you realize that like there's a few ways to voice an open voice chord for trombones. And there's like 3 or 4 variations of them that are most common, and you can kind of tell what everything else is going on. It's probably that. Even if you can't really hear it, it just comes from experience. So am I doing the one composition a day thing? Well, yeah, today was number 2. It was at the beginning. What's your personal take on Anton Bruckner's music? I'm sorry, I don't know his music. What are my computer specs? Which computer spec? I don't, I do. My computers are primarily built for visual effects work, and that's a combination of CPU and GPU stuff, depending on the engine that I'm using. They've always got tons of cores and shit tons of RAM, and they're designed to move 4K footage around in real time. They're custom built. I don't buy they're built for me, the week I order them, I could probably tell you what all the specs are, because I'm going over it with the guys who are building it. But it's always like, always buying. They're always real expensive because they have to do a lot of different things. They have to do all the restoration work, all the visual effects work, and all the compositing and color correction, and all of the particle simulations that I do, or physics simulations, and heavy rendering, whether that's GPU or CPU. So they're these monstrous oversized beasts that then get recruited usually as slaves for music stuff if I'm doing it. My Pro Tool system needs updating. Because it's like literally it's finally died. It's a Pro Tools 8 system on a fucking Mac 1068, which has run like a rock. I think it's crashed 5 times since the day I got it. And it's just finally now all the hard drives have failed twice over. That's done. So I had to get a new system. And it'll just be, I don't know. I haven't even checked on it really. I keep meaning to do that, but I haven't done that. John Williams composes on the piano, I think. Yes, most definitely. So when you transcribe, you're transcribing in a piano reduction more so than a full vertical orchestration? Well, no, it depends. Actually, usually when I transcribe now, I go straight to the paper with everything. But if I'm trying to figure out something harmonically, then that's what I would be doing. Again, it's different. 40 years of doing something is different than when I was 10 years into it. If the point is the transcription that ultimately, like when I was transcribing all the Williams stuff as a kid, it was fully orchestrated. At the time, having absolutely no path to ever seeing the real scores. So I remember when it first came out, like the signature edition stuff, I remember digging through and trunk from when I was a kid and pulling out these old yellowed transcriptions from when I was a kid to see, and it almost like, well, I was 15 at the time, so, still. But we have a lot more access to that stuff today than we did then. Mac or PC, both, and Linux. Linux usually controls the render slaves, like, if there's a lot of render nodes that need to be managed, or a lot of data to move around, I'll use a Linux server to control those. Otherwise, Mac PC, there's no difference. It's just go back and forth. It's control versus Apple or Command or whatever. It's like I don't even notice the difference. The only difference is that something goes wrong on PC, I can guarantee I can fix it in 5 minutes. Apple, I gotta have to dig through all kinds of shit because I like to pretend they're simple, and it's not. It's a Unix system. It's a Unix system with a you're too stupid filter on it. It's just don't worry about that. Just click the button. It's like for idiots. It's not, but it's like they treat everybody like idiots. They hide everything and try to pretend it's still Mac. By the way, my mom found my old Macintosh SE30 from when I'm a kid. That's when Macs had their own thing. She sent it. I'm like, I'm so excited just to see that thing again. But yeah, it's been a Unix system forever. Well, Unix is a complex operating system. I don't care how much you hide it. So it's exactly like a PC. It's a complicated bunch of command line shit hidden behind pictures. It's exactly the same. Will the Zimmerish epic sound still rule the film industry over the next decade? I don't know. No, I mean, probably not, right? Because the only thing that's constant is change. Like, how long can that go on? I don't know. Omni just put out a Goldsmith score. Good. Get it. Buy it right now. Mac doesn't have tons of updates. PC doesn't have tons of updates you need to update. If it ain't broke, don't update it. I don't ever update, ever. I get my systems rock solid. Actually, in visual effects, you can't, because 1 second makes a difference. If you have, 50,000 frames to render, 1 extra second, your computers can't go down. I mean, they can't go down. So my PCs do not crash. They never crash. It never happens. I can't remember the last time that happened. I have 200 of them in nodes. They don't crash. So you just get them stable and then you don't fuck with them. All right, here's an update. Nah. Everything's behind a firewall. I've never once had a virus. Never once. I mean, maybe and an install a couple of times. I've never had viruses. I just have a firewall up. I don't click on shit. I don't know. I don't really understand. I do IT stuff for my company and for this foundation that I work for, and it's like you just get it clicking and then you're fine. It doesn't. I updated it and now everything doesn't work. Was it working before? Yeah. Oh. Okay. Yeah, I have Windows 7 Pro on my station here at the house. It just clicks. It just works. It doesn't. I've tweaked it over the years, and it's. I don't even know what I'd do if like it crashed. I think I'd have to throw a party. Like, wow, look at you! Look who crashes. Who's a crashing computer? I don't know what else I'd do. I couldn't be mad about it. What do I render? A lot of visual effects stuff. GPU. I use Octane if it's CPU-based rendering. If it's really intense photoreal stuff, I use Bella, which was developed by my friends formerly from Maxwell Render. Otherwise, I use RenderMan. Still RenderMan 22.7, I think I'm on. So all my visual effects stuff has gone to RenderMan or Octane. If I'm really, really on a time crunch, it needs to be GPU. Basic Instinct. Okay, that's a good one. I used Snow Leopard for as long as I could get away with it. Yeah, no, I mean, I don't, And my mom, I just forbid her, don't touch nothing. But it bothers me every day. Click it off. Just click it off. Your computer's running because Lord knows. because I got to deal with it. I got to remote in and fix it all. And I'm like, what the hell happened here? Oh, I just thought it told me to do it. No, don't ever do what it tells you to do. Am I publishing videos? Well, what do you mean? What do you mean? Oh, VFX stuff? I mean, like anything that I don't know where. Well, there's stuff on my channel here. There's some stuff on the channel. You can see some of my, you can see my, I think what's on the channel? Probably my Tron stuff, my R2-D2, my TARDIS is probably on here. Like any of my logos are mine. Stuff I've done for movies. I don't title work. I don't know where you can see it. A lot of times too, when I'm working on a film, I end up doing stuff and I just kind of do it. I'm not, like I've done where I've written a score for a movie, but at the end of it, my score was done and I just came in and helped with a couple of visual effects shots. I've done that. My girlfriend directed this film for, it was really fun. It was this really fun film. It was one of the asylum films, one of the crap films. She took the film, I don't know if I've probably told the story. She had shot a couple of the Sharknado movies. She's actually an astoundingly good cinematographer, She's a chick with big tits, and it's just hard for people to, it's hard to be taken seriously sometimes. She's actually phenomenally good, and real old school. She would be like composer-wise, she'd be like in the Goldsmith, like old school, Storaro. She was a paint with numbers kind of girl. But anyway, she shot these Sharknado movies, and then one day they called her, the asylum called her, and it was basically we need a director and cinematographer to shoot this movie in 3 days or something. No prep. And she was like, it's not even a story. If you've ever seen the asylum movies, it was not a story. It was ridiculous. There's no money, and it was this alien attack movie. It was laughable. You knew it was going to suck. You just look at it there's no way this can't suck. There's no money. The script is ridiculous. How can you have an alien attack movie have no money? You can't. You knew it. But she was going to do it, and I said, well, I'll write the music for it. I mean, I would have 2 days to do it. Actually, I had 5, I think. Or maybe even less. Or 7 days. Was that the one? Was that how to score a film in 7 days? Was that? I think I actually did a masterclass on scoring her film. I think so, guys. Let me know. And what was it called? I don't remember. Oh, yeah. It was called Independence Day. Which I don't know how you can do that legally, but they did that. And I did a bunch of effects shots in that film. Yeah, Independence Day, yeah. So I wrote the score in 7 days. There's a whole masterclass on how I did it, because I would blaze through it. But I also did, I think, 100 effects shots for that film. There's this whole sequence. I'm in the film. There was this sequence that was missing. We were just looking at it, and I'm like, we need this sequence where there's jet fighters attacking, they have a dogfight with these alien ships. So I just made up this sequence. I just wrote out a sequence, what it was going to be. I storyboarded it, and then I just did it. I just did I modeled all the ships and did the whole sequence, and then I directed the second unit for the pilots. What we did was, on one of the places where she was filming, they had a big pebble driveway parking lot area, and we got this guy in a pickup truck, and down the street at this junkyard, a guy had the canopy. He had the top canopy from some old airplane. So we he had a defunct jumper seat. So we rigged it up in the back of we put down a piece of aluminum, put the seat up against it, and then just rigged this canopy on top of it. And one thing we did rent was we rented a real Raptor pilot, the Raptor pilot helmet, the legit Raptor. And then when people were done, a handful of people, including a friend of mine, and Laura Beth's in it, and I'm in it, one of this, all put on the pilot jumpsuit and the Raptor helmet, and we got in the back of the seat, and I put the camera in the back of the pickup truck, and I just had the pickup truck guy drive around and turn the wheel, because what they never do in these things, I don't understand why, is that when the truck turns, the canopy, the sun rakes across their faces, and it looks like they're turning and doing shit. On top of which, the whole thing's going over pedals, so it's going like this. So the camera's going like this, and the people are legit bouncing around, and the sun is raking across it. And so right away, it was a million times better than at least half the fucking pilot green screen shit I'm saying. I'm like, why? So we filmed all that, and then I just made up this sequence. So there's this whole chunk of the movie that's just all my effects, all my music, all my sound design. It's like 5 minutes right at the beginning of the movie. So you can see that, and it's probably on YouTube. And it was like the sequence was raptors versus dragonflies. I got this like kind of, I don't know, it looks like this alien thing. And then there's other sequences where these guys come down and they attack the nuclear weapons or so. Anyway, it was just fun. It was fun. And the score was just like that thing where I had to write it in 7 days. Yeah. Yeah, and my acting too. I did a very good job dying. Well, I got to kill myself. Why would you not? I'm the very first pilot who goes to explore one of the motherships, and he flies underneath it. And he's like, "Everything looks good to me," and then so it's fun. It's just animating frame by frame your death, especially in a situation you'll never be in. Oh, here's that time I was obliterated by aliens while flying a raptor. It's like, why would you not do that? And that's why I had a friend who's just said anytime there's ever a film, he wants to die in a film. So I'm like, guess who's going to die? So I gave him a special death. He comes up in a plane, and 2 of the alien ships flank him on either side, and then they like make this laser net, and then they just sweep the net back through his plane and kill him. But that was like that kind of thing where I had to turn out like 5 shots a day. And that's 5 shots completely beginning to end. That's conceived, wireframe animation, animated, then rendered in layers, composited, finaled. I mean, it was insane because that's the only way you can do it on a job like that with no money. That was rendered in Octane. Could not have done that without Octane. But yeah, there's a class on scoring that. I don't remember a note of the music. I remember nothing about the movie. It was so fast. But anyway, yeah. Is there a recent film composer with whom you've been particularly impressed? No. No. I mean, so what? See, because even when people, like, it's not hard to listen to music, even if you're not, like, skilled. It's not hard to listen to music and recognize when it's just crap bottom of the barrel music and that the person doing it has no real musical talent. That's not like hard to identify. But still, no matter how crappy it is, no matter how bottom of the barrel it is, it doesn't hurt anybody. There's people who will love it and get their lives will be enriched by it. So how can you look down on that? That's a great thing. It's a great thing even when the music is total crap. If somebody loves it and their fucking human experience is better because of it, like you have to celebrate that. I can't. I mean, the best, you can go, wow, if you like that, you got some other stuff you might want to check out. But to go to that some point and be like, well, that's all crap. You shouldn't even listen to it. You just listen to crap. You're just the kind of person who can't tell the difference between crap and like, what's that? Like I can't get behind that. So I listen to composers all the time. I'm like, well, that's complete crap. He's working on a fucking A major film and cashing in and no musical ability, but he's making money. There's a guy who's a musician who's making money. And God, haven't we had enough starving, poor musicians? Give the guy some money. Don't worry about it. Nobody else, everybody likes it. Everybody likes it. Who cares? Like, I can't. I mean, I can't say I like it because it's crap. But it doesn't matter. I see it with a different ear, a different eye. And it doesn't matter. I would never want to take away that people will like it. Like it. That's good. That's what we would all want. I don't have snobbery about music that way at all. Any thoughts on Johnny Greenwood scores? The most I can say is, I wouldn't have written that. No, I wouldn't have written that. Nope, wouldn't have written that. Remember, There Will Be Blood. It was just like, with the strings, and I was just like, I wouldn't have written that. It kind of works. Huh. It's about as much as I can say about that. Yeah, there was some stuff. There was like some stuff in there where it was like it was kind of pitsy and some stuff, and I just thought that's fun. But like I've never bought anything like that. So I wish I could say more, but I didn't. Like I really dug that movie, and obviously whatever the score was for it, didn't pull it out of it because I still love that fucking movie, and I still remember that little thing. I remember that little thing. So there you go. So yes, that's my thought on it. Thomas Newman stuff, like for me, Thomas Newman just, I remember that my Thomas Newman was Revenge of the Nerds and Real Genius. That was my Thomas Newman. And then all of a sudden he had Shawshank. And it was like, holy shit, like that Shawshank was so great. And then everything after that has always sounded to me like pretty much the sketchbook for Shawshank. Like the ones that he threw out. Remember Green Mile? I'm like, no, Shawshank was better. And I remember he had like this big thing to do at the beginning of one of these Pixar movies, and he absolutely couldn't do it. And he had to change ideas like 4 times. I think it opens with just music, and it was like if ever there was a time for a long form composer, Johnny Williams could have taken 20 minutes and made that like or Cole Smith. And I remember Tom Newman had just run completely out of steam, like 4 minutes into it, and had to just keep changing. I remember that. Hey, Mike, did you hear about Divisimate? Oh, yeah, I think so. I think they've been asking me to... It's the one where it does all this crazy layered shit in real time. I think they actually sent it to me. I'm pretty sure I had a conversation. Really, no offense. If that's what we're talking about, then yeah. I don't even know how that's fucking possible. I heard some stuff that sounded great. It was so performance-based. I just haven't, my system hasn't, I have not had time. I've been working on other stuff, and my system I don't even think is robust enough to take advantage of it right now. But if it's that same thing that I'm thinking of, it was it was crazy. It was crazy, and I really applauded the fact that it was performance-based. But that's also inside of the, it's also inside of the framework of, I think any tool like that is going to work better if you know what you're doing, if you really know. It's not going to teach you anything about orchestration, but it can make it sound like you know what you're doing. That's something, right? You know what I mean? But yeah, I heard a couple of things that I just was like, how is that? Where are all those parts coming from? It was really crazy. So again, I don't more tools for musicians. Yeah, more tools. Good. Mike, when you write an orchestral cue, do you flesh out all the details and variations right from bar one, or do you create the overall ideas and structure first and make it more interesting? Well, if you've seen the scoring masterclasses, which I assume you haven't, it's always going to be a combination of both, right? Because sometimes you get the idea, and the idea is really rich. Usually, that's the thing that I will do with an idea is I can tell right away if it's got a lot of raw material in it, or if I'm going to be pulling teeth to try to get stuff out of it. So that little thing I did today's the little modulation bass piece. It's just from the second I hit it, I was like, okay, I could do 9 million things with that. So I was confident in moving forward. And, and in that case, I didn't have to work them all out. But if I have come up with a theme in particular, and then I want to trace where that's going to go over the course of 3 acts, I might look ahead and just go, okay, well, this will be the minor version, but I'm going to set it up this way so it's this way later. Some of that. Although I always score from beginning to end in order, because you got to do that. So it... But almost always over the course of any time, the ideas will get refined. So you might come up with an idea for a melody, and then you start writing it. But by the end, 4, 6, 8 weeks later, you've worked out the better version of that theme. You just played it enough that you figured out, actually what it should have been is this, and you work it out, and then you go back and you retroactively, replace the old versions with a new version. But yeah, it's everything. It's lots of times though, at least at this stage, Certainly the orchestration part of it, like I talk about, it's already in the composition, so I don't consider that another process. It's already orchestrated. I played it orchestrated. It's just a physical process of putting it down on paper, but it's all in there. You know, that piece I played this morning, like, that would be simple to orchestrate, because you can tell when I'm going, that's very different than when I'm going, you know, just different ranges, different intensities, one-head octaves. Even though shit tons would not be in there, the orchestra would have lots of other stuff going on. You can tell what I mean, and that's the orchestration. Yes, go transcribe some Poltergeist. Isn't that it? That's Carol Ann's theme, right? I can't hear. I think that's what it is. Very simple. Could be very simple. It's Goldsmith. Well, I hope I didn't just... can I do a quick rundown of how I set up my MIDI visualization keyboard up here? Oh, well, it's so I'm using a Yamaha C7 disc clavier 4 Pro, disc clavier 4. That's the piano, which is just MIDI'd to it's MIDI'd to my Babyface, an RME Babyface Pro. No. Yes. No. How am I getting the MIDI in here? Yeah, Babyface. That's it. I'm using that. Right. That's where the MIDI's coming in, and then this is a little virtual keyboard called Virtual Keyboard, and that's just automatically reading the MIDI in from the piano. And then I'm using Wirecast to, and it's a layer. It's an input. It's a screen capture. So on my main monitor, the keyboard is down at the bottom, and that's just referenced as a screen capture window as a layer inside of Wirecast. So I was just trying to remember how the audio is getting here. The two mics on the piano, those are going to a Behringer like X12 Air or X Air 12 or something. Those are going in there where there's just a little outboard effects. There's a little echo on it, a little reverb, and I think maybe a kiss of compression. I'd have to look. And then those outputs are going into the Babyface's inputs, and that's coming in to Wirecast as an audio unit. So in this case, the camera is a Logitech C920. The audio is, all it sees is my RME, my Babyface Pro, which is getting the audio from the Behringer and the MIDI from the piano. All right. Any tips for a jazz guitarist to get my compositions better? As a guitarist, I feel like I have a different approach to how a melody should be supported with voicings to sound good before orchestration. Well, you just have to remember that, that your voicings and your stuff are just like any other instruments, are going to be instrument-centric, just based on what would be clumsy or familiar for your fingers. And it's just going to be harder for you to make that abstract leap between this, the piano has the full range of octaves and that represent the full, potential ranges for all of the instruments. So it's not abstract. On piano, it's like, well, there you go. It's that. It's not like, well, my instrument doesn't go that low, so it's that, but it would be down here. That's just another layer of abstractness. And that's the reason more composers write on keyboard than on guitar. That said, what you'd have to do is just improve your ability to know what it really would be, even though you can't tell it on your guitar. And that'll come from transcribing and then checking your transcriptions against scores, because you won't be able to confirm it on your instrument. But then you can build the translation bridge, between your instrument and the other instruments. It's just a much shorter, easier bridge if your instrument is piano. But the process is the same. Even if you can't quite visualize it, if you took all the keys off your piano, after enough transcribing as best as you can and then checking it in the score, you can just make the mental note. I don't go lower than this, but even though I hear this on my instrument, it's really this when it's for cellos. You know what I mean? My classes are on 18% or at 40% discount right now. There you go. There's the code. Do I have any advice to improve my piano skills and sort of start over? Because indeed, I feel like they're holding me back. Hey, very first day of this live stream 2 days ago, I was actually talking through how I'm teaching Draco piano, my son piano, and the exercises and what I worry about and what we focus on. So that might be worth checking out. And certainly in my approach to piano, as we talked about, is like half technique and then half learning to be a musician, which is not generally how they teach piano. Piano is a lot of learning how to say other things people have said instead of ever really marrying that with how to speak yourself. So Draco's learning both, and that's how I wish I'd learned, and so all that. I really got a lot of the symphonic brass masterclass. Well, there was a lot to get out of that. Those guys were fucking monsters. Any more classes with live players on the horizon? We've talked about doing the woodwinds class forever. I wanted to do woodwinds, strings, percussion, woodwinds. Actually, the next one I wanted to do was woodwinds. Then I wanted to do strings and percussion, I think. No, strings. And then, no, it was going to be woodwinds and percussion. Oh, that's right. That was my last idea. It was going to be a combination, half woodwinds, half percussion, because I didn't need like 12 hours for that. And then it was going to be strings, and then the whole orchestra. That's what I wanted to do. Well, the symphonic brass is my favorite class because the amount of information in there is unbelievable, and it's really not because of me. It's because of all these great players. But nobody buys that class. I might as well not have even done it. But the people who bought it are the ones who initially did it to see it, and then that's it. There's no demand for it. That's crazy. That's insane. I don't understand it. But as a result, I know that if I do the woodwinds class, it's going to be for the handful of people who actually fund it, because that'll be it. And that would be great because they all deserve it, and I would love to do that. I have to write a shit ton of material for it, and it's really, really difficult to do that and have time to do that, which I haven't. So we haven't done it. But my grand plan was, we'll just go through the sections, and then we'll bring them all together, and it'll be a big thing, and we'll show it. That didn't go anywhere. It's just, nobody wants that. Do I use Vienna Ensemble Pro 6 or 7? 6, I think. Or 5. But I think it's 6. I also play jazz guitar, so your recent piano class was a real eye-opener. Right on. Thinking triads to imply larger chords. Oh, yeah. Thanks for the answers. Much appreciated. Yes, I can say and express myself properly on guitar, but simply not on the piano. Yeah, well, you will. And my orchestrational composition suffer because of it. Well, yeah. I can see where that's the case. Look, it helps for sure. And it's really not you don't have to be a virtuoso pianist to be able to just, work out chords. If you're just clamming your way through chords just to be able to see it, because it goes directly from the piano to the paper. There's, you don't write a chord on piano for trombones and then write that on the paper. You don't. You write fucking that right there. And that's how you know if it's the right sound. The translations are very direct. Mike, are you making a pop synth 80s arrangement with modern plugins? Wait. Say you're making a pop synth 80s arrangement with modern plugins. Would you pre-select sounds in a template or preset browse from layer to layer, going through sounds and finding what fits? So, I was born and raised in the 80s, and had all the gear and did all the stuff, and I know. I remember the process of preset hunting, and then the sound itself would generate a context for it. But certainly, I was also already orchestrating and using acoustic stuff, so there was this other direction in which we'd be looking for the synth version of a context we already had. So the concept of a pad was not a new concept. It was like, you know, the idea of glue to hold things together in an arrangement or an orchestration or a mix was not like some revolutionary concept. What was revolutionary was now that there was these pad sounds that nobody had heard before. So in that case, you were looking for that element. You were looking for a lead element, and you knew what leads are. It could have been guitar, it could have been sax, it could have been trumpet, or it could be this sawtoothy thing, and it's a lead. So there was this, you know, there's this like soup that's in the 80s where you can hear the sound made the part, and then you can hear where the part determined the sound. And usually some of the best synth stuff, like my favorite synth guy of the 80s, hands down, not even a second, nobody's second, was Greg Hawkes from the Cars. Greg Hawkes, like, there was, every sound was distinctive and perfect and filled a role that nothing else could fill. It was so incredible. I to this day, whenever I listen to a Cars tune from the 80s, all I'm listening to is a synth track. I'm like, it's fucking perfect. It's like I've never heard synths used better than Greg Hawkes' work on the Cars. So there's just a couple of different ways of, you know, of approaching it. Today, if I was doing an 80s thing, I remember the 80s thing, and I have all the gear, or did. And, you know, my plugins now I use, what do I have for those? I have, what is it? Like OPX2, the Oberheim one, and I use FM8, and I use the Tal Uno X or whatever, and a bunch of the Arturia ones, like the CS80, or Arturia, or however you say it, like CS80, and a Juno one, and I also have all the Roland stuff. Roland put out their own, so I get a D50 if I'm going to the end of it. I have a bunch of them. Jupiter stuff. And they all sound really close. They all sound good. And I have a seat of what's that one? It's like Super Resource Hog. It's like amazing, but it like you always have to put it on draft, otherwise your computer can't handle it. What is that synth? It's a great synth, but it's like it's just somebody will know. You know. So, but yeah, if I'm writing an 80s tune, like I already have the context, I know what it's supposed to be, and I'm going to look for that tune or for that sound because they you know, they had very clear context. Like the poly saw brass stuff was always used in a certain way, you know. It was that context, and everybody used it in that context. Diva, that's the one. But, you know, there's no, again, if you're doing an 80s thing, I talked about this when, at some point, you know, 80s is way more about the music. Like, a lot of people get the sounds right, but they do not get the music right. They don't get 80s music right at all. And it's because you cannot write 80s music without an irrepressible sense of optimism in the music. The music itself, it's not the sounds. The sounds are fine, but they're always in service of just this, fuck yeah, everything. It doesn't matter. In the 80s, you'd be singing about my girlfriend cheated on me and died in a car crash, and it would have a fucking backbeat to it. Like, if you really listen, you know, oh, this is our last night. Tomorrow we're going to die. Yeah, and it just be, yeah, there's something about it, and unless you really know that, unless you're really not afraid of that, you know, you can't do 80s music. There was no depressing 80s music. The ballads were all, they always had stuff in them, and you know, I have on occasion, you know, sat in with some buddies, old session player guys, and we'll play a gig of doing 80s stuff. So over the course of the last few years, I've programmed all the hero patches from every tune. I mean, every tune. And I actually somewhere, I think I should put this on YouTube. Somewhere I actually could do a seriously legit version of the Rosanna solo all by myself. It was crazy. It had 2 keyboards and all these fucking controllers on it and things, key triggers, so that like as I was hitting one note in one part, the next time it would become the glissando thing, which had all these. It was fucked up to do that solo, but I was actually able to do the Rosanna solo, all the parts of it, really legit live. It was one of my favorite things to figure. How the fuck am I going to do that solo with all those sounds in it? There's this part at the end where it pitch bends down, and I had to do it with a foot pedal. The foot pedal is the pitch bend. I had to practice that for weeks. It was like, they had to just I had to do it with my pedal, and then when I hit that last thing, it key triggered the whole top part of the keyboard for the glissando thing, which is this fucked up multi-layered sound, and it goes down, but it doesn't go down. It goes down following the scale. It's like with a harmonizer on it. Anyway. Yeah, because on that tune, because it's got all the piano part. But then it's got, when it comes to that there's our organ it. I had to figure out how to get all that stuff in there. It was just really crazy. I transcribed Peter Cetera, The Glory of Love. Good, yeah. What would be Mike Verta's 70s, 80s movie recommendations? Like if you ever go back, like look at what was in the theaters in the summer of like 1982, and it's crazy. Like if you went to the movie theater, it would be like, it's like, shall I see Star Trek II, Ghostbusters, The Empire Strikes Back, Raiders of the Lost Ark? Like, it's all these, like, it's crazy how good the 80s were for movies. It's like, oh, I don't know. I think I'll go see Ghostbusters. It's like all these things that became classics. So, I mean, fuck. That's all you have to do is just go from 77. Just look what was in the theaters. They're all like fucking classics. We're all still making them. They were so good, we're either still making them or remaking them. Yeah, and then and in the end of there's this little thing at the piano. Really fun part. Anyway, actually watched The Dead Zone after Mike mentioned it. It had his favorite Michael Kamen score. It was good, right? I think I watched it as a kid, but I was just forgotten. The score was good. It was good, right? And Christopher Walken's so fucking weird. It's so great. Is your acoustic piano MIDI'd? Yes. Yeah, it's a disc clavier 4 Pro Yamaha C7 thing. All the 80s movies are great. What software is your on-screen key? It is not VMPK. It's called Virtual Keyboard. I used to use VMPK and it stopped working at some point. And one day I was just like, fuck this. And I went on and I found this. It's called Virtual Keyboard. It's like all one word. It's like really obscure. It doesn't even look real. Like it's on some site. It's called Virtual Keyboard. Look for the one that looks like mine. I think is the best. What's the best thing I ever wrote? I don't know. I've never had that thought. That's good. I've never had that thought. The best thing I ever wrote. I mean, just relatively speaking, I don't know. I really don't know. I can't answer that. I don't feel that way about it. It's like, it's like asking somebody what's their favorite version of a food they hate. What's your favorite brand of cottage cheese? I hate cottage cheese. It makes me want to throw up. I can't even smell it. Yeah, but which one's your favorite? The one I'm not eating. looking to leaving the world of VSTs behind. Well, you don't have to leave them behind, just, and just moving to an upright, digging the Yamaha U1, U3. Boy, I couldn't speak much about that. Don't know much about it. The race, one of my favorite fuck no, dude, that was just an experiment. No, the race was not. The race was just an experiment. There was things I was trying with it, and no, that piece is fine. It's fine. It's not like, you know what I mean? What is it? Is that it? I mean, it's fine. It's a perfectly fine piece, but it's not for me. It's not for me. It's for you, and if you like it, then it's done its job. But I can't answer that. My favorite piece ever. The best thing I ever wrote. A simple tune I didn't overwrite. Right, that would right. Just any tune that I didn't overwrite, and it is. I just, I don't listen to my stuff. I don't. But I cannot ever remember in my adult life ever going back and being like, that was good. Like I just never had that experience ever. It's almost like, it's why I avoid ever hearing it, ever seeing stuff, because I get that hot. You just get hot in the face. You're like, oh God, oh Jesus, God, make it stop, make it stop. That's how I feel every time I hear my stuff. Have I ever dreamt a song? I work in my sleep. That is one thing I do. I've done that my whole life. It's not. I don't know that it's. I work and it's like I'm awake, but I'm asleep. I've always done that. So I'm not. And not like in some abstract way. Like it's real. Those are real hours. They count. So lots of times if I'm having to go to bed because my body's collapsing, I don't get all anxious about it, because it's like, well, all right, I'll just keep working on it. And so that is the thing I've always done. I mean, I have dreams too occasionally, but 9 times out of 10, I relegate certain tasks to sleep. Like certain things, certain brain things, like if I'm working on something, I'm not going to burn up waking hours for it. I'll just do it while I'm asleep. It's way easier and it's faster. And yeah, virtual keyboard, 4DRX. That sounds right. Mike, do you have any experience with learning piano for people with learning disabilities? Just wondering if you ever came across anything useful in that area. No. I don't know how to answer that question without going into the whole thing about learning disabilities, which I don't want to do. So my advice would be, just pretend you don't have them. Which probably sounds insensitive, but because what are you going to do? Like, not learn them? No, I don't have any. Sorry, I can't answer that, because you don't have to not have learning disabilities to learn piano. It's not complicated. It's not the kind of thing that learning disabilities should interfere with, unless you have brain damage, like severe brain damage. If you don't have severe brain damage, which you don't, because then I don't worry about that. Knowing all the secrets to the magic tricks as you do, what are the musical harmonic devices that still get a strong reaction as a listener? Well, I've talked about it. People know this. This one kills me, will always kill me every day of my life. That I just, it's just instantly tears. I can't resist that. For the longest time, all I had to do when I was writing a tune was not do that. That was the one. I can't. So when Last Starfighter came out, I was like, that's the best thing that ever been written. Great tune. Great. In fact, come to think of it, I think a little of this, I think some of that is in the race, actually, in the beginning. Some thing like that. And that's also why one of the very first times we hear the Star Wars theme in Star Wars at Luke's homestead, outside of the main title, it's in this context. There it is. I was just like, like that's something that can't resist it. My favorite thing ever. I used to solve graduate math problems in my sleep. I would, because it's way more, just you're got more of your brain engaged and nobody talking to you. When writing to picture, do you write in something like 4, 8, 16 bars with tempo maps? No. I don't. I let the picture dictate and the motion through the frame. Again, I think all this is in scoring one, but the pitches of people's voices, the speed through the frame, the speed of the edit. I allow what's in the film to dictate what the thing is going, and I'm not going to dogmatically put a click on it. Usually, if I sing a thing out and I do this, I'll run it and I'll just sing it as it goes. Da, 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 da. Often, I will find just naturally a tempo, especially an action sequence, that seems to hit most of them. There's a natural thing usually in there. And if it's not, it's usually not a well edited film. Some of that funkiness in The Last Starfighter reminds me of Afrobeat rhythms. Ever get into Fela Kuti brass arrangements? I'm sorry that I haven't. I don't know it. Shit, love it. Give it a whirl. All right. Well, I will put that on the list. It's a long list, to be honest with you. Does talent count in composing? I mean, to some degree, yeah. I mean, legs count if you're a marathon runner. It's better if you have legs. But you can have legs and not be a fast runner. You can have talent and not learn any fucking thing and do nothing with it. So it helps. But I've never considered myself especially talented. Ever. At all. Never been like, well, I've got all this natural talent. I don't even know if I do. I would never know because I worked so fucking hard. Whatever I had, I worked like I had none. Let me put it that way. I worked like I had no business, because that's how I usually felt, because I was always listening to John Williams and all these great people. I was like, I'm not even, that's God, and I'm nothing. So you don't really have to get to work, because it's a long way from nothing to God. So I was always working like I was just shit, I'm not worthy, So I don't know if I had talent. I don't know. That's the truth. Copy that chord progression, yeah. It's very 80s. is there ever going to be a scoring 2? I don't know. Maybe. I think more stuff to say. But how to score a film in 7 days is easily scoring 2. Right? You know? I mean, because it's like, okay, here's what it looks like in the brutal underbelly of a shit gig. Which is how it usually is. You know, it's not ever, it's rarely like, here's no, here's all the money and here's 20 weeks. It's not that. You had talent and still do. Well, maybe, I hope so. I mean, if it was, because it didn't need to be any harder, I can tell you that. Whatever, it didn't need to be hard. It was plenty hard. Plenty hard. Had to just push through a lot of self-doubt. You know what I mean? I had to push through a lot of, I still do. Like I said, I still listen. We talked about this yesterday, day before. You know, I still listen to stuff every day that I just like, fuck. Because I love that feeling. I love feeling scared out of my fucking wits like I have no talent. I love that feeling. Because I like that moment where I just go, you know what? You're fooling yourself. You're fooling yourself. If you don't know it by now, you're not going to know it. Sooner or later, you just got to you got to know when to fold them, man. There's no shame. You gave it your best. And then this other part goes, fuck that. Fuck that. He's a human. He's just a human. I'm a human. If he's a human, I can do it. And I go right back. I love that. I go through that little fight myself all the time. Not really sure I can conceptually understand or agree with the concept of talent. Well, I mean, isn't that kind of developing how much work? Well, no, but I mean, certainly some people have proclivities. If you're a father, there are some things my little boy came out with pre-programmed. He had certain things were installed from the factory. There is no question about it. That said, easily most of his stuff is stuff that's been put in after. And the degree to which it capitalizes on stuff that came preloaded, like the faster and the easier it is for him. But there's no question that he is a combination of both. There's just some things he just did, like before he could even, like you could just see it. You could see it. Like my son is a great mimic, and he was like that. He was mimicking people's voices and accents, and he would get the pitches of their voices just right. And I was like, this is before, I never put music on him at all. I didn't want to push it. I didn't even say anything about it really. Just played it for him, never. But I remember he was like 2 or something. I'm like, that kid, he's already got whatever the brain thing is that can easily recognize pitches and rhythms. And so he would do people's lines from movies, and he would get the rhythm of it would be just dead on. That came pre-wired. So when we do voice, like when we do ear training stuff, like he gets that very quickly. Or transcription, he's pretty high, you know, he can transcribe pretty complex stuff. That came pre-wired. But all the other stuff, we had to slog through it like everybody else. So, you know, so you have some, I just don't know that it's just a component. It's just a component, you know? So, you mentioned finding nuggets in old TV scores. Yeah. What's one of my favorite off-the-wall pulls from that? I don't know. I mean, but just go and listen to the Alexander Courage stuff from the original Star Trek. I love that shit. I love all of that, the Saul Kaplan stuff. Boy, the original Star Trek is one of my favorite steel places. Most important thing besides transcribing, more transcribing, you know, writing. You know, putting it to, because it's not enough to just hear it and work it out. You have to try using it yourself. You have to, just like when you learn a language, you try to repeat a word that you've heard, and then somebody corrects it. Okay, now you got to go try to use the word, otherwise the learning circle doesn't close. Penderecki died yesterday. Do you sometimes listen to some modernists of his time? No, I don't. I don't like modern or serial music or aleatoric music. I don't like it. I don't enjoy anything about it. I call bullshit on the vast majority of it because most of it is bullshit. And most of it is a place gone by people who had no real craft or skill or control. Then you've got Schoenberg, where I've talked about this before. If you ever think for a second that the god of modern or serial or 12-tone music, Schoenberg, couldn't write the fuck out of a tonal piece, you ought to go listen to Girl-Eater, because that's incredible. That represents complete control. He didn't have to write any more tonal stuff after that. I've listened to that piece and I'm like, okay, yeah, dude could have done anything. And he goes, yeah, I'm going to go out here. He gets a pass. I've known no shortage of composers who were, write a pop tune. Show me that you're in control. Show me that you can wade in the water with the simple folk. And show me. They can't. No, I couldn't do it. Couldn't connect with an audience if their fucking lives depended on it. And all the rest of this is a bullshit fucking emperor's new clothes. That's the truth about most of it. And then there are some people who have control. And that's why that's all I teach is control. If you want to write all this shit, fine. But let it be a choice. Show me that you can draw the stick figure, not that you can only paint Picassos, because I ain't buying it. That's a bunch of shit. It's a bunch of shit. You're either in control or you're not. You can prove that in 5 seconds. If all this other stuff is predictable and passé and blasé and blah, 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 okay, well, yeah, but obviously then you can just do that. You're a master of it, right? That's why you've tired of it. You're just bored with the, 1, 4, 5, right, so... yeah, let me hear your chart topper there, genius. And if not, then you're not in control. You don't have a skill set of control. So it just happens to be that you do music that you can do and get out of here. Bullshit. Well, I've known these guys. I went to school with them. I've known a lot of them. And fucking pretentious bullshit that they push out in front of them because they don't really have any skill. So, but a guy who has control and craft, I don't care what you do. Knock yourself out. Do all this shit. Anybody can do it. There's somebody's like, it's a deconstructivism, blah, 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 blah. Yeah, fuck you. That's not going to get you any pussy. That's all I can say about that. And that was important to me when I was a young, budding musician. I mean, I'm a pro violinist. Maybe. Maybe top 15 in Greece. But the top ones are really next level. Yeah, the top ones. At some point, it becomes just about finding your style and yourself. Well, sure. I mean, play to your strengths. By the same token, just the fact that if you acknowledge that there's 15 better than people than you, then it's always at least nice to, it's always good to have a thing to, keep pushing against. Do I like John Adams? No. How do you steal from other composers like a gentleman? I think if you know what you're doing, here's my take on that. If you don't have to steal, then you're a gentleman. That's sort of the way I would say that. Because if clearly, it's like you don't have to, you obviously can write, you can obviously come up with stuff, then sort of, I think you sort of get a permanent pass in that. I think it cuts maybe both ways. You go, well, we didn't have to do that, so it's a little like, I'm just gonna, yeah, no, that's cool, it's cool. Otherwise, it's just like, you can do better than that. Why are you lifting that? Well, because I'm out of time. All right. I think being able to do it and being legit maybe gets you a pass. Do long improv sessions count as writing? Sure, because that's what it is. That's what it is. I mean, that's ultimately what it is. All composition starts as an improvisation. You don't know exactly what it's going to be, right? Any pop tunes of recent years you really enjoyed? No. I've been subject to a number of them, because actually what I've sort of enjoyed, because my boys' Taekwondo class, they played that One Direction tune. And he was like, I really like this tune. And I was like, oh, fuck, it's literally 8 beats. It's just over and over and over and over and over again. And I was like, how am I going to listen to this? But it's kind of catchy. Yeah, it's got a good hook. I could listen to it once. Cool. A couple times. He was listening to it. I thought I was going to turn my fucking head off. And then it was like, I just didn't say anything about it. He put it on a Spotify playlist. I'm like, what? You're going to burn out on it. He's like, no. I'm like, no, trust me. When a song is that simple and has that little to say, you're going to burn out it quick. He hadn't heard the concept of burnout. And it was like 4 days. He's like, yeah, we can take that off the playlist now. I'm like, I'm not a fan of modern music composers either. Schoenberg was classical before the tonal shit. I mean, Schoenberg had craft. That dude was fucking godlike. So I don't care what he does. Yeah. I guarantee you it wasn't because he didn't have a choice. It's because that's what he wanted to do. Do anything you want to do. What I got to say about it? Who cares what I do? Do what you want to do, but have control over your life. That's just advice, actually. I don't care what you do. But my feeling is, it's a hard life as a musician anyway. If you want to write serial and atonal shit, you're going to have even a harder life. So just in case you get hungry, be able to bang out some tunes for a check just in case you need to. Don't just practically speaking, do what you want. With a percussionist pedigree, do you dig any electronic dance music genres? I mean, obviously, I mean, I dig anything rhythmic. It's always like it's not like I don't hear stuff all the time, and even if it's just whatever, and just go, oh, that's cool, that's a good groove, yeah, that's cool, that's good. It's like it's never that the idea itself or the programming doesn't have merit or isn't cool or isn't something to respect. It's just okay. Yeah, I got you. But what else? What else? Well, there's nothing else. Okay, that's all it is. It's just no, I liked it, but not for 3 minutes. So that's all it ever is. So I can't think of any genres particularly, or even artists that I feel like that I'm interested in. But that doesn't mean that I don't all the time hear something and go, that was well programmed, or yeah, nice groove, cool, good layers, like that happens all the time because there's lots of great stuff out there. There's lots of really great, you know what I mean? Um, Why would I be in trouble if Schoenberg heard me praising him for his control? I don't think so. This is great. I love no filters. Yeah, I don't have filters. I had all mine removed at the last tune-up. I just had them take all the filters out. Just the last. I had a couple left, and I was just like, all those are doing is slowing and gumming up the work, so I had them all removed surgically. Um, I found about Mike from his mock of the original Star Trek. Oh yeah, I remember that. Nailed it. Did I? That's the sound spot. That was fun. That was fun. It was a long time ago. Yeah. I don't remember why I did that, but I did that. I think some people didn't like that. I can't remember now. I think some people were like, "This is ridiculous and busy" or something. I don't remember. Anyway, please wait. Please, Otberg. What is this? What is? I swear, on an early stream from last year, there was a picture behind Mike on the dresser that showed a penis with a cape. That yes, I think there was. Yeah, yeah. My girlfriend one time, as a joke, she made penis. It was like a joke. She got this machine upstairs that could cut stuff, and so she made a penis. She made a penis gift, like a card, like a greeting card. It's like a happy penis thing, and she started selling like the shit out of them on Etsy, like by kind of an accident. She just put a couple on Etsy, and people like from all over the world wanted to buy penis cards. She eventually had to back off because she was getting orders all the time. She had all these like clever penis cards. It was a total joke. It was like one of those things where you couldn't plan it. She made like these R2D2 penises, and they were just, and just the machine upstairs she drew it, and it was just, but she actually took time with them. They were really well made. They were actually really well made. It was just like a thing she did on a weekend, and then at some point she had to put the fucking brakes on. Everybody wants penis cards. Oh, I made a 60s template for another project. Well, that was okay, so if you go on YouTube, yeah, the ZVP fake trailer. So if you go and you look up, it's either on YouTube, it's either ZVP or Zatoichi versus Predator. It's going to be one of the two. It'll be in Japanese. One of my Japanese film director clients, had just done this little like fan trailer that he just wanted to do, where he took the worlds of Zatoichi and Predator and he put them together. And so it was just a little, passion, little project. So, but I score all of his films. So he just said, would you score this little thing? I'm like, yes, of course. And we talked about it. And we were like, well, let's make the whole thing sound like it's the 60s. Like, let's do that. And then by the end, when the reveal comes, we'll just make it stereo and we'll go up to the, thing. So, of course, I listened to that 60s stuff all the time, so I knew exactly what the sound was supposed to be. So it was really fun taking the template and then, making it mono and adding all this shit to it. But it's on the 60s template that I made for that is its own little thing here. It's a kind of a Star Trek-y kind of thing on my channel. But then the actual thing that he did with the music on it, with that sound, it's either under ZVP or Zatoichi versus Predator. It's actually really fun. I could have imagined you enjoy certain kinds of rap music because of the poetry aspect. I mean, I suppose not the pop stuff probably, but some in that way has more to say than 8 bars. Yeah, I mean, a lot of it depends too on I think where you are just in terms of philosophy. Because there's levels of that. There's levels of the human condition that are less profound than others if you've studied a lot of philosophy. And I think, I think rap hits a chord with a lot of people because the best rap, in my experience, manages to articulate some things that people might not be inclined to normally be thinking about. If you're normally inclined to really be digging deep into the human equation, chances are you've thought all that stuff already. That's just, which I think as a musician, you have to know people as a composer. Otherwise, how do you know how to talk to them? You know what I mean? So it can go cut both ways. But again, always listen to what you like. Nobody can tell you what you like, nor should they. I mean, they can try, but always listen to what you like. Always drink the wine that you like. It doesn't matter if it's $5 Chuck or $2 Chuck, or if it's $5 because of the inflation. $2 Chuck, or if it's something really expensive. Always drink what you like. Always listen to what you like, and fuck anybody who doesn't like that. Found out about Mike's channel from acclaimed British video game composer Daniel James, who recommended for learning composition. Did he? I should thank him for that. Then the channel was actually full of video restoration projects. Well, oh, what, the Vimeo probably has all my Star Wars restoration stuff on it, probably. But I don't develop my channels because I don't have any control over them, and it's a rat bastard situation. I'm not going to put a lot of energy into my YouTube thing. I can't control the content. I can't control where it goes, how it's seen, what happens in the algorithm. No say over the algorithm. Maybe we'll ban all your stuff. Maybe we'll put it up to the top. Maybe we'll turn it off. Maybe we'll pay. Maybe we won't. Fuck you. I'm not going to spend any energy on that. It's free and worth every penny. But that's also why I don't ever monetize my stuff, because I fucking hate that. I hate ads. I hate spam. So you come to my channel, I'm not making $1 on it, and you don't have to sit through any bullshit. So that's how we're doing it. I mean, I've heard like at times, that there's, little whiny millennial bitches on YouTube complaining, me. Dude, you signed up for that shit. You took the sucker's bed. You got nothing to complain about. Well, did you work? Do you have a contract? Okay, so that's what you get. I mean, you're only 22. Might as well learn it now. The last short film I did, the producer conveniently forgot to credit me as composer. How would you handle a situation like that? I feel like filmmakers nowadays don't value composers nowadays. So you're only ever valued to the degree that you... first of all, God, that's such a... Okay. No fucking way you didn't see that. That's how I feel about that. You rationalized your way through it. But there's no way. It's like when people are, she's a bitch. I'm so glad I'm done with her. Yeah. And this is a girl he saw, he courted, he dated, he lived with, he was with her 5 years. Now she's a bitch. What happened? It's always at the end, suddenly she's a bitch. Right. She was Jenny up until about 2 minutes ago when she decided that she's not cool with her guy, sitting on the couch all day or whatever. And now she's a bitch. Okay. It's the same thing. Like, hey, yeah, there was no indications at any part of this process that they didn't value me in any way. Bullshit. So now go spend, since you can't control other people, work on yourself. What did you not see? What did you rationalize your way around? Because you wanted the money or you wanted the gig. There were indications. There always are. And if you can't learn to see them, then you'll always be screwed. Be like, oh, I never saw that coming. Sooner or later, you're going to have to see it coming. If you're ever in a situation, you have to know, does this person value me? I mean, not just a composer, but me. 9 times out of 10, the answer is no. So my advice is 9 times out of 10, walk the fuck away. If they're ever willing to see somebody else do the music, then it's not about you. See, we all have a market of one. That we're the only person in that market. Nobody in the world can do your music. You're the only one. But if the person that you're going to doesn't value that specific product, then they're not going to value you in any way. And that's when you'll ever up in a situation where you go, well, this guy over here will do it for $3,000. So you asked for 5, he's asking for 3. So why wouldn't we go with him? Immediately walk. Unless you desperately need the money, and then in which case you can't complain about it. But my point is that at that point, the guy's already said, oh, it doesn't matter who. Any number of composers will fit the bill. We're just looking for a composer unit. I mean, so this is a cheaper unit. Why would I buy the cheaper unit? That's just treating music and you like a widget. It's not about you. Your client is the one who goes, I don't care what it costs, I need you and nobody else. That's like what actors get. No, we need Tom Cruise for this film. Nobody else will work. Well, he wants $25 million. Well, we're going to have to find it because this film does not work without Tom Cruise. Okay, well, you can have that kind of client too, but not if you're spending your time working for people who don't value you and your specific, unique product. Now, if you don't have a unique product, well, then you're screwed. Because then if literally anybody can do what you can do, then I guess you just better learn how to give good blowjobs or something. I don't know, because then and that's what a lot of people are into, because they all got the same plugins and the music is really nothing. And so there's other ways to get the job, but it's not going to be about like, no, this guy's music is this guy's music. So, but you can't, if you walk into a situation like that, then you have nothing to complain about. The guy didn't value you. Which, again, there's times to do that because you need the fucking money. You need the job. Okay, well, then it's probably going to go south, and just be sure that you're ready for it. Otherwise, the skill of being able to say, you know when a chick's into you. Come on. Can you talk her into going out with you by lying and misrepresenting yourself and working it and doing all this shit? Oh, I love to go running. Yeah, let's go running. And you don't even like running, but you're trying to get in her pants. You can lie and manipulate and misrepresent and deal with it, but it's not going to last because you're not really that dude. It's exactly the same. You can say whatever and get a gig and get the job and have the director and get the thing or whatever, but if in the end you know that guy wasn't like living, I'm not going to tell you how to write your music. You write your music. That's your client. And if it's anything other than that, then you knew it was going to happen. You had to know. And if you didn't know, you got to know on the next one. But the people who think superpowers aren't real hasn't seen a human being rationalize. We can rationalize anything. You just don't want to do that at your own expense. That's a huge, huge thing. If I was in that situation, I wouldn't be mad at them. I'd be mad at myself. What'd you not see? Because bullshit, that wasn't seeable. You literally don't get credit? I mean, that's like the scummiest thing a guy can do. You were working with a complete scumbag shitball this entire time, and you had no idea? You got to open your eyes, pal. That's all I'd be focused on me, because that's all I have control over. I know there's a whole world of shitbags out there. It's up to me whether I'm working with them. Now, if I've predetermined I'm going to work in the film industry, well, you've predetermined to work with a lot of shitty people. I want to work in video games. Okay, well, if that's your priority, good luck to you. If your priority is you want to work with good people on good projects, they may or may not be in film. They may or may not be in Los Angeles. They may or not be anywhere near your sphere right now, and you may have to go find them. But if that's your priority, then at least you know you'll be treated well, because that's what you've prioritized. Hey, Mike, what are your thoughts on getting better with writing melodies? You mean like we cover in, which are the ones, guys? The Theminator and tell them, guys, which are all my theme writing classes? We boil them down. Good underlying chord structures and melodies which outline those chords, and setting up patterns, and then going back and forth between established patterns and new ones, a constant battle between things that are old and things that are new, things that are predictable and things that are not, moving the dissonance to consonance ratio around quite a bit. We're full of all sorts of useful lessons, which you can get now for $18 with the coupon code Corona Hysteria. Just ask other people, and they'll tell you which one you want to see. Is there a chance we'll be seeing you more often? It's so refreshing, is it? No. No, because soon we'll all be dead, as you know. I mean, obviously, why else would we have pushed the nuclear option and locked everybody in their homes? Clearly, we're all going to be dead soon. So no, you won't, because I'll be dead. And in the event that we don't all end up dead, then I got to go back to all the other fucking work I got to do, and no. So no, you won't be seeing me more. I get the philosophy aspect, but I imagine there's also some aesthetic joy aspects. After all, we still enjoy watching Raiders again every now and then. What did that part I missed with that? Genuine question. I like so many different genres these days. After a long jazz-only period, I feel like I haven't got a clue which direction I want to go now musically, besides learning from it all. Well, who says you have to change it up? In fact, that's the best thing. Change it up. Don't, because they'll all inform each other. You will get something out of everything that you listen to. So don't limit what you listen to. Let it move around. Put on stuff, and you'll know, fuck this. And if you're in a jazz period, stay in it. Trust me, eventually you'll just be like, okay, it's enough of that. Trust me, it will happen. You don't have to force anything, especially when it comes to music. Maybe right now your little music brain is like, there's something it's super absorbing right now. Maybe it just wants to sit with it for a while. Maybe it doesn't want new shit. Maybe it just wants to just sit. For all you know, it's processing in the background. That's a real thing. So, relax. And that's why the psychology of philosophy are that's why psychology and philosophy are damn valuable business skills. Well, yeah, I mean, as adjunct to understanding people. I mean, ultimately, people aren't very complicated. They're not complicated, and they've always been the same. I said this yesterday, the day before. We all went back in time 2,000 years ago. You'd see all the exact same people: liars, truth tellers, grifters. You'd find people who were like super into business and people who were like super churchy. And you'd find sensitive people and like assholes and greedy people and selfless people and people who could really cook and people who are horn dogs. You find all exact same people, all the teenagers like a girl, don't know what to say, all insecure. You'd find all the same shit. People have always been the same. They're not very complicated. We have like 12 base models and like maybe another 12 like optional packages. And then you just mix and match them a bunch. But they've all got steering wheels and pedals. It's not hard. Steal music from my live streams. Yes, steal everything you can. Steal. Have I ever dabbled in the stock market? Very briefly, I went into it I went into it, and I have some friends in the stock market who said it's a fucking racket. It's all inside information, and if you don't have it, you can do a little thing, but not. You need to know to know. All the big money, it's all hookups. And I was like, well, you could probably still figure it out. And I had an uncle who was sort of a Aspergery, you know, and he was sort of Rain Man-y, and he did kind of okay, like he did like a kind of okay working the algorithms, like a Rain Man-y kind of guy would do, and he did better, way better than most average person would be. But I found out after really getting to it a little bit, like if you really wanted to get it, you just got to get you got to get yourself into the hookups. It's all insider trading. That's really all it really ultimately is. All that stuff. Oh, you just got to read the financial reports from the yearly. Yeah, it also helps to have like 3 guys on the board that you all play golf with. It's like a very tiny group. They're like, well, I'm not saying anything, but we may or may not be getting a contract from... Get the fuck out of here. And that's how that goes. Oh, no, it was just luck. I just keep coming up aces. So I've dabbled, but it's not... as soon as I get the hookup, I'll be out. Am I familiar with Yoko Kanno? She's this giant in Japan. So many years ago, I did the American remixes and all the new sound design for a series called Cowboy Bebop. And which at the time, I mean, nobody, I think, in the States really knew what it was, and I certainly didn't know what it was. I had never seen anime before, really. And the American crew, the translations were really good. They were colloquial, and the crew that we had, and I recorded all the voices. I did the whole thing. I did all the audio for it. And the voices were really good, and the stories were fantastic. And, of course, the music was all Yoko Kanno. And I was like, this is fucking great. I loved it. I loved working on that series. And this actually happened. So I didn't know what Cowboy Bebop was. And it was cool, and it was what it was, and the voices were good in the thing, and I did all this additional sound design for it, and I think we even did it in surround, but I don't remember. But and then the company that was putting it out, I don't remember who it was at the time. Zero Limit? I don't remember. Anyway, I went to Comic-Con to be on a panel. To talk about the thing on it. And I'd never been to a Comic-Con before, and it would have been my last one ever if some other things hadn't had me go back. But I went there, and I just got fucking hammered. There was 2 groups of people. There were people that really loved the work, and then there was this whole like subculture of fans that were just on principle, they were tearing their teeth out livid about the idea of an American dub, let alone that I had put any sounds on top of the original sounds. It was like I had pissed on the fucking Shroud of Turin. And I was just like, okay, sorry, I did not, you're right, it's great. Oh God, it was the worst. I mean, just like nerds, like fat nerds, just in your face, like it's Japanese, it's the antithesis of American, like, okay, Christ, Jesus. It was the worst. But I really dug the series, and I think I have all mine here somewhere. I think the company gave me the box set of it or something when it was done. And I think since then they may have redone them or done things, but it was fun. I did that, and I did them. for a series called Soul Bianca, and I did it for another one called Blue Submarine, Blue Number 6, something, I don't know, something, and then another one too. I don't know much. They were all new voices, and I recorded all the voices, did all the sound design, but yeah. I love the English dub of Cowboy Bebop. Oh yeah, cool, nice. They were really. I mean, I remember when I went to work on Soul Bianca, the translations weren't as good, and I was like, oh okay, so this gets clumsy if you don't really. And apparently there's a real line there, like there's people, which I don't understand why this is the case, but like they speak fluent Japanese, and they'll be like, that's not exactly what was said in Japanese. I'm like, yeah, but if you actually say what's exactly in Japanese, it doesn't make sense. It's not colloquial. But all they know is, no, it's got to be word for word. Okay, all right. Anyway, it's a whole thing. How do I do sound design for a film? Do you use orchestra for it? No. I mean, I was trained I do 5/1 sound design. Like, to me, sound design is like atonal instruments. I work it exactly the same way. I'm mindful of the spectrum, and I have themes and variations and certain types of sounds aesthetically. There's eras and periods, Like one thing that happens in sound design circles, it's almost always budget based, but you never want to be caught using a library. Like that's like a thing, although everybody does, because there's all these libraries that are available, and the way to do it is you recorded all new sounds for the film. Like that's like the legit way of doing it. Oh, these are all new sounds. It rarely does that actually, but having your own library is always way better than using the Sound Ideas stuff or any of the million libraries. There are like a million libraries. But as a result, when I watch TV or shit all the time, I'm like, disc 6048, track 21, that fucking door. I can't believe they use that door. That's literally the first door on even the fourth one down there, because there's like a door, bang, 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 and it's just the first one, not the first one. At least use the fourth. Fuck it. So I hear TV on the background. I hear all these sounds, but yeah, sound design to me is exactly the same thing. Dialogue is first, and also sound design has something very, very similar to orchestration in it, which is, you learn how many things that the audience actually can hear at one time, and how you direct their attention and not rob things from other things. And then there's also something very similar to orchestration when you're being mindful of what's going on in the frequency spectrum. So that young sound designers, when they do explosion, they layer way too much bass heavy shit in it, and their fucking meters peg like this, and it's not very loud. And then as you get more experience, you realize you probably only need one component that's got any bottom in it, and the rest of it is you're watching. You want to get the glass crack, and you want to get the stuff that's in the mid range that by themselves might not sound all that impressive, but together it sounds like the biggest thing you ever heard, and the meters aren't even pegged, so you can actually get a lot of SPL out of it. So there's something very similar to those sorts of orchestrational, acoustic, frequency-based decisions that happen in sound design. But I think a good sound designer, it's like they're like atonal instruments, and you're crafting a sound field, and yeah. Do I still use LAS? I haven't used it in a while, but I dug it and I liked it. Hello, Mike and all. My apologies for the delay, since I'm working on my perfect ending for my upcoming April Fool's Day Screamer video. Well, you'll be the only one making that April Fool's video. Do I still? Yeah. So like I said, I haven't used LAS in a while, but I remember liking it, But I think at some point I started using a Hollywood Strings one. I really don't remember, because once I make the template, I hate all that. I hate making templates. Everybody does, don't they? And then once it's in, but I don't follow any of the news and the VSTs. I'm sure it's gone places. But to me, they're all sex dolls. Like I'm sure it's way more real than it was 10 years ago, but it's nothing like my girlfriend. Never will be. I mean, I know I say that. I haven't actually. This is off topic, but when they hire you to do a Timex commercial, Do you cover all aspects of production? Yeah, at this point I do. Are there benefits to doing things all by yourself versus having a team? Yes. If you do, well, at least for me, there's an upside and a downside. The upside is efficiency. So if I'm doing a commercial, like a Timex commercial, where I come up with the concept, I write all the copy, I do the storyboards, I know every aspect. I'm going to be the editor, the sound designer, the composer, and I'm going to direct the spot. I'm going to be the guy actually animating the characters. I'm going to be in charge of rendering, composing, composition, compositing every aspect of the commercial. Then there's no time wasted. There's no energy or effort wasted because everybody knows what everybody else is doing. So we render exactly the frames that we need, and we know exactly what the pace through the frame needs to be. We know what's going to be covered by music in the edit even before it's been written. Very, very efficient. It also has the downside of being a singular creative vision, which can be very good. It can also be, therefore, limited to whatever my ability is. So if I'm in a situation where I can hire a team comprised of people whose instincts I trust, whose instincts and natural proclivities, whose natural sense for the material is such that I can let it go, then the project has an opportunity to grow beyond my vision, beyond the boundaries of what I'm capable of. And then all I have to do is keep it on the rails. All I have to do is just keep it within the ultimate, the framework of the message or whatever it is. But ideas and things will come to it that are greater than mine. It's greater than the sum of its parts. So, but then that also comes at the expense of people have different working schedules and different ethics, and they have different, there's just different, it's just more when you manage a team. So it just depends on the project. If it's a real deadline thing, and certainly if there's any money issue, then I'd rather just do the whole thing myself. It'll be faster, and I know it'll be fine, it'll work. But anytime I have an opportunity to work with teams, and just say, you know what? You love Batman. You live and breathe. You have a Batman tattoo. You're exactly the guy for this Batman job. What would you do? And then you'll get something great. And then at the point he's like, and then I'm going to go, well, actually, that's okay though. Not that, but yeah. And that's all I have to do. And then it has an opportunity to become greater than the sum of its parts. I'm also working on my recreation of Brian Tyler's Universal Pictures 100th Anniversary theme, a 2.5-minute plus piece adapted from the original music by the late Jerry Goldsmith. Cool. That's a good exercise. From the latter's original audio logo, that is. That's good, yeah. That's cool. I mean, that's a great exercise. Make your own. Make it better. Isn't that it? Recently, I've started to think that once melody is written, the song is composed, since melody will tell you almost always the harmony and arrangement is stylistic choice more creative. Well, I mean, that's, again, we talk about this in a lot of the classes on melodic development, is that so often great melodies outline it's in there. They imply chord progressions. And if those chord progressions especially are familiar to people, part of the lexicon, part of things that we have in common, then you're going to make a connection with those melodies very, very quickly. That's why a melody that... Why is that not a good melody? Because you can't... Okay. You absolutely can't lock onto a pattern about it, can't relate to anything about it. Yeah. But again, this is what we talk about in the classes. That was the 19 audio logo by the late James Horner. Oh, was it? Oh, what's Jerry Goldsmith? That's James Horner? Was that? I didn't know. What? That's in my mind, that's Universal. What is Universal? That's not Universal? Huh. Atonal music is mentally exhausting. Yeah, yes. How original can somebody be writing in established idioms? Well, again, this term is said Pavlovian, when the truth is originality is not really what makes music valued or cherished. What people are really looking for is the right ratio of surprises to established, surprises against familiarity. And when I was a young composer, most composers go through this period where everything has to be original. I can't do any. Turns out that's not the way to talk to people. But the answer to originality comes from this. You are a unique person. You have unique life experiences. If you are bringing your unique life experiences and philosophies about the world and scars and things that you've borne through your experiences, if you're bringing them to the music, which assumes that you have the ability to bring them to your music, then your music cannot help but be original and unique because you're the only one. Now, if you don't have the skill to bring your unique self to the music, well, then yes, you're in danger of simply being, an imitator or a pastiche composer. But if you have facility enough, well, then you won't be able to avoid being unique because you are unique. We all are. You're a snowflake. We're all unique snowflakes, special. So you don't have to worry. So again, that's just one of those things that people say, and it's like I think that people say it just to say it. Well, what? It's got to be unique. Even when it comes to people who write in the style of another composer or something, like your average person. Like, let's say you write and somebody goes, well, his stuff all sounds like John Williams. Okay, inside of composer circles, first of all, that is either a slam or a compliment. Outside of composer circles, that's only a compliment. Your average person is not going to not listen to your music because it reminds them of John Williams. They'll be like, I love it. It sounds like John Williams. You know what I mean? It's not. You have to just remember from what perspective these things are being said. Distinguished and established Hollywood composer Brian Tyler improved the recording and added taikos or something to the ending, representing ethnic diversity to the Universal brand. Oh yeah? Is that how you... That's funny. I'm just reading it. It goes B flat, E flat, E flat, B flat, E flat, B flat, E flat, B flat, B flat. I bet it makes sense in context. Harmony first, then, as you say that melody should outline chords, and do you base your chord changes on tonality, voice, leading, bass motion? You're overthinking it. Certainly I don't have a process like, well, now we must do this. Especially because my first compositions were chords. I heard chords and I heard melodies inside the chords other people weren't hearing. It was actually my mother who called me on that. It's going to be the case that you're probably naturally going to connect with a melody that implies a certain chord progression, and then you can decide if I play. You know all the chords. So, if I just do that exact thing, everybody's already clicking. That would represent, a... So at that point, I'm either playing into or against your expectation. Now, all things are perfectly valid. This is perfectly valid. But we have to be aware as how far we've pulled from the expectation so that we know whether or not, are we cool with that? Because if you've done... all all this stuff, and you've done 500 variations of it, and then you're like, so there might be a context where all that out shit might be right. So, but you have to be aware of whether or not, because if you start right off the gate with that, you're probably going to lose people, because there's nothing to anchor us. And knowing where you are in terms of that dissonance consonance, where you are in terms of that pattern that's familiar or fresh, that's the game. My mock-ups of the past and present Universal Pictures audio logo are on SoundCloud. Available now on SoundCloud. Speaking, what about borrowed chords or more complex harmonies and modulations? Do you just have a palette for them, or do you try things through if you still want to make something fancier? I'm building mine still. Well, you do that through transcription and through looking at scores and building your, just like any other vocabulary. You know, you build a vocabulary, and along with that vocabulary, you also learn the context. You don't want to be one of those people who drops a 50-cent word into a 5-cent conversation, because that's just pretentious and stupid. But it's good to know the $50 word or 50-cent word or whatever it is, so that when you're talking to the particular group, you can pull that out. So you might, know the 5 to 1, and then you might learn the 5 to 7 to 1, then you might learn you can learn the various versions of a chord, but there's going to be a context that justifies them. Now, for myself, knowing all the chords, remember I talked about a couple of days, really complex chords can just be two simple triads stacked on top of each other. I keep using this example, but I'll use a different one. A C chord and a D major chord. Very, very complex sounding. Same with A major over C major. Or F sharp over C major. Or its inverse, C over F sharp. They sound very, very complicated. Well, it's just two triads on top of each other. So something that can be complicated can actually have very, very simple roots. So, so it's just thing to keep in mind. If you want to learn more complex chords, that's fine, but you're always going to have a context that justifies them. Now, when I write, I also talk about in some of my classes, the physical process of good voice leading through efficient motion. So lots of times when I'm doing a modulation and I'm moving from one thing to the other, I'm just literally like, well, what is a lazy movement of my hands away? It's not in a vacuum, because I usually know exactly what it's going to be, but still, it's a great place to start, is actually using the physical limitations and restrictions of your digits to just say, well, rather than feel like I've got all these options, what if I did one that required the least amount of motion? And somebody mentioned the throne room from Star Wars the other day, which is right there. Or, literally, it's all right there. So it's a lot can be accomplished in a small space, and that's a great place to be exploring from. Don't be afraid to just play in the chromatic spaces around your center, just physically. There's a component to it. Again, guys, you'll tell them which one we talk about that mostly. So yeah, a melody can imply a few different possibilities. For sure, it can, and the way in which you guess what your people or your audience is generally going to expect, and the degree to which you decide to give them exactly what they knew was coming or not, that's going to be where a lot of the interest is. So how do you choose the right one? There is no right one. There's only things that are justified, and that skill comes with experience, and the laboratory field testing of putting your material out there and watching the effect that it has on people. It's usually very easy to see, especially today, where you can get large sample sets, what the general reaction to your stuff is. Especially under the veil of anonymity, people are very likely to vote with their views or their likes, and you can get a lot of feedback. It might be anecdotal, but it's really not. It's as good a lab as any, and start to realize that what you're considering the right one is probably code for the one that most people like, or the one that you can guarantee people will like, which you have to be able to do. It can't be, you can't make a living as a composer if you're like, I hope people like it. You have to know exactly what they're going to like. So that if you're in trouble, you can go to the stuff you know is going to work. It's like being a chef. You're in trouble, you're like, I don't know, salt, sugar, fat, we're fine, don't worry about it. Just put salt and sugar and fat together, they'll like it. You know that, they will like it. You just don't want to make just salt, sugar, and fat, because that's anybody can do that. But if you're in trouble, salt, sugar, fat. Same thing in music. What happened to Composition 3? Composition 3, I think, was renamed. I think that's Counterpoint 1, if I'm not mistaken. Mike, can you play the same thing in all keys? No, I mean, sometimes. Like a 1-4-5 progression, I can play in all keys. But I have favorite keys. Like, I'm always clumsy in F sharp. I just don't see it. I always have to, like... Yeah, okay. I have to, like, warm up into it. So... So I saw saw the stream was red. It's not good. Anyway, maybe that's the universe telling me to shut the fuck up. Because I don't even know if it'll like come back. But anyway, when I'm in trouble, if I'm having a hard time writing, I'll write in keys that I'm not comfortable with. So that I'm sort of forced to see things differently. Is it back? Turbulence in the inner stream. No, it's just everybody at fucking home. Everybody home. Anyway, if I tried Zoom, is that like the thing, like it's like Skype or something? If so, no. Yeah, even if a melody asks for a simple 1-3-5 trait, I just can't do it. I then have to add a 9 or invert. Well, yeah, you gotta get over it, man. 1-4-5. This is a beautiful thing. Don't get rid of that. Like Skype, but better. All right, everything's better than Skype, I would think. My son uses Discord from time to time, and I'm like, holy shit, that's way better. Now we enjoy you yapping about everything. You have a lot of experience, so you know more than most of us about life in general. I don't know if that's true, except for the stuff that gave me the white beard, which is actually not fair to say because I had this when I was like 22. But now I can just be professorial about it. It's like, the force is strong with you. In C, I see chords. In C half sharp, I see chords. Yeah, I mean, like I said, I went through. I think it's a period. I think composers go through a period where, you know, everything's got to be unique, everything's got to be different. Not that. No. And you know, in the composition for today, and certainly in yesterday's was almost a parody. I really do try to illustrate that there's really not. It's not insanely sophisticated stuff going on. It's really not. It's in fact, it's more about the application of drama and sustaining interest through dissonance and consonance and through pattern establishing and breaking, more so than just like the raw sophistication of chords or any. That's really not what's happening. I do like in the Christmas tune arrangements that I did. Those are very simple, very, very simple. They sound like complicated, but that's sort of the fun of it, is to realize, you know, that it's not like. It's really how you put the stuff together. That and just even knowing that's the case can maybe make it a little less daunting and a little more mortal, you know. Anyway, are there any composers you are currently looking forward to hearing new music or albums from? I wish I could say yes, but the answer is no, not currently. But then again, I have not tired. I mean, there's so much music has come before us, and I have not A, tired of it, B, heard it all, or C, not been sufficiently humbled by it. So my motivations to, like, what else is there, is low right now. That said, It's not like I'm like, all new stuff is crap. I don't know that. There's 8 billion fucking people in the world. How could it all be crap? Can't all be crap. I don't really hear it. But then again, what channels would I be hearing it from? Like popular music? Okay, yeah, most of that's crap. But still, if you like it, good. You should like it. We like that. Let's all applaud music that people like, because that, as long as they like music, which they do, then we have a gig, right? So, no, nothing really bans. I mean, but again, I haven't listened in a long time, and and I do a lot of writing, and so, do I actively look for new artists to listen to? No, I don't do that at all. No. My Spotify playlist is all 80s, and my iTunes stuff is so crazy you would not know what music I listen to. It's every film scores and ukulele ensembles, and then it's Tool, all Tool for an hour of Tool, and then it's 80s stuff, and then it's, as you would never know. It's crazy. Mike, which orchestral easy song themes do you recommend to start recreating for practice? Well, I mean, you know what? Take the Galaxy Love Tool, because they can play. Fucking guys can play. Danny Carey is a fucking monster. That's why all musicians love Tool. Musicians love Tool. Most of the fucking poser douchebags that are all Tool wannabes, we hate, but hardcore dudes love Tool because they can fucking play. They can play on stage, live, sounds just like the fucking record, because they can fucking play. It's that simple. Tool is legit. And all the other ones pretty much posers. So I don't know any musicians, hardcore studio guys, who do not love Tool. Hey, I'm a Tool wannabe, buddy. Well, I guess everybody's a wannabe after that, right? But fuck, dude, get out of here. In fact, Danny Carey is on my short list. Ever need a drummer? I want to come up with an excuse just to play with Danny. So how do you start writing with the Easy 145? Well, that's the best place to start. Is just say we're going to write, So simple, you can do a whole day's worth of stuff on simple. Just work out, making an interesting melody, like none of those were. But you start with that, just try to find, can I just do it? And use the limitation to guide you. Play us my current vibe on piano. I did, man. Well, by the end of this point, I started the day missing my little boy. It was quiet in the house. The sun was low. on that note, see you tomorrow, everybody, for, one composition a day until we're all dead. Number 3, have no idea what it will be. Stay safe, be well, wash your hands obsessively like a maniac, and go write music, and we will see you all tomorrow. All right.